Okay, hello everybody, and welcome to the webinar. Today we are looking at how to make better inventory decisions with Acumatica and Netstock. My name is Barry Kukkuk. I'm one of the co-founders of Netstock, and we have been, attempting to help small and medium businesses optimize their inventory levels for about 12 years now. So today we're going to talk about who we are, the current state of the supply chain, which I'm sure many of you know is in quite a bit of disarray, what tools we offer to stay competitive, show you a bit of the software, and then open up to questions and answers. Who are we? So Netstock started about, like I said, 12 years ago. The founders have been involved in inventory management and optimization in the enterprise space prior to that. But when we came back together in 2012, we really looked at the market and we understood that there really are thousands and thousands of small to medium, mid-market companies with the exact same inventory problems that those enterprise customers that we used to serve have. And these people are really underserved. If you look at what's going on in these markets, is, on the one hand, you have your CFO and you give them an ERP system. You have your marketing VP of marketing and you give them a marketing automation tool like a HubSpot or Marketo or something like that. You have your sales people, your sales head, and you give them something like a CRM system. And you have your manufacturing and you give them a manufacturing scheduling system. And then you have your inventory people and you give them Excel. And this is really the problem that we try to address with Netstock. So instead of one person or a couple of people having this massive spreadsheet to try and understand what inventory we should carry, how much is too much, how much is too little, when should we order, and so on, we wanted to give these people in the organization a tool with the best practices built in to make all of those decisions. And so Netstock was born at a time where software as a service became a acceptable business model. The cloud was just starting to become really something that people were getting used to, pioneered by people like Salesforce and Acumatica. And also it was becoming possible to deliver software via the browser. So we didn't have to build on-premise software that you install onto your Windows network and so on. You could just go into the browser and do it. And this enabled us to deliver this type of software to these smaller companies. So it's easy for them to pay on a monthly basis, easy to connect to the ERP system, and easy to use inside the browser, but also still gives the massive amounts of value that our software in the previous enterprise kind of division gave our customers. So having said all of that, why is this even necessary? So right now, maybe more than ever, or for a long time at least, we face a lot of supply chain disruptions. So, if you start, I want to start on the side here with the longer lead times. So with the pandemic happening, and then straight after the pandemic, we had, a war happening in the Ukraine. And straight after that, we had China doing hard lockdowns in most of their cities. Lead times suddenly became a lot longer. We've seen our customers, experience overseas lead times going from 60 or 90 days up to as long as a year. 9 months is not uncommon. And so that was, really a challenge for especially the smaller guys, to also, you know, stay in the business of, you know, the supply chains. And so what they did is they, well, what happened is they obviously had a lot of more stockouts, because, you know, if it suddenly takes 6 months instead of 90 days to get the inventory from overseas, you run out of stock, because you were used to be able to receive those inventory much sooner. And so what happened is that these people reacted by ordering as much as they could and taking any inventory that they could get. So if a supplier suddenly had, you know, some more to supply, they would take it, and they would just stuff their warehouses with more inventory, because they were so scared of, you know, these two things happening. At the same time, especially here in the States, we you know, went through this whole big resignation problem, and we suddenly faced labor shortages. So that affects a lot of the you know, shipping, tracking, and warehouse operations, not just for ourselves, but also for our suppliers, and very often to our customers downstream. And not only that, but within an instant, the whole world's economy changed and became, you know, interest rates started going up, cost of money started going up, and demand suddenly plummeted. Everyone tightened their belts a little bit, and suddenly we had very big discrepancies between supply and demand. So what happened is, of course, we were here, we were stocking up as much as we can. Suddenly we're here, and our you know, we got too much inventory. So now we're sitting with all this inventory. The demand is a bit depressed, and we don't know how to deal with it. So now we are, you know, paying to keep all of that excess inventory on hand, and this is pushing costs up. Because the longer you have to keep inventory in your warehouse, the more it costs you, you know, to keep that inventory. So just think of, you know, warehouse sizes. If it's refrigerated goods, there's an electricity cost there. You have to insure the inventory. You have to keep stock counting it. It's you know, it takes space in your warehouse, which makes your warehouse less efficient, more difficult to move through, and so on and so on. So your costs are going up, and you know, with the rapidly changing demand and the discrepancy between demand and supply, we suddenly have a big problem. You know, often we talk about the bullwhip effect, and this has been something that really happened in the last couple of years. So, you know, there's a problem in the supply. There was a problem in the supply side, and every person down the chain reacted to that same problem, and, you know, which started as a small change. When you go through all of those steps in the supply chain, became a big, massive problem, huge overstocking. I mean, if you look at, you know, even big companies like Target, who really is struggling because of all of the excess inventory they have, you can understand how even big companies with very sophisticated systems can still fall prey to this. So the question is, if the big guys are struggling, what chance do, you know, the little guys have? And, you know, one of the things that the little guys maybe don't appreciate as much as the big guys is that data-driven supply chain and data-driven analytics is really the way of the future. In the last 10 to 15 years, the big guys like the Amazons of the world and the Walmarts of the world have really transformed themselves from traditional retailers into data science operations. And so what happened is that they employed thousands of data scientists. They sit with huge amounts of data in their data warehouses. They keep on mining this information, and they use this to their you know, to the best effect to keep themselves in business and to drive costs down and efficiencies up. The smaller guys don't seem to even know about this kind of way of doing this, or if they know about it, they don't know how to access that kind of stuff. The smaller business can't employ 1,000 data scientists and don't have mountains of data warehouses to work through to get to the same efficiencies. And this really is where Netstock, this is where we think we can make a difference in the world, because we also want to arm the small and medium and even mid-sized businesses with these technologies so that they can also compete in the market. I don't know about you, but I don't want to live in a world where there's only Walmart and Amazon left. I want a rich ecosystem, and that's really our mission. So the biggest challenge is obviously plenty of stockouts, especially when your supply is disrupted. At the same time, you still have significant excess because now you've ordered too much and suddenly demand is down. And it takes a long time to order. Even if you have a great ERP system like in Acumatica, it still can become quite a tedious process to place orders on your suppliers to make sure that you place the right orders at the right time, so you get the inventory, the right amount of inventory in the right place at the right time. And of course, poor forecast accuracy. It's a perpetual problem, and people just don't know how to fix that. So what we're saying is that there's a lot of companies that still use what we call analog tools to compete in this dynamic data-driven world. With analog tools, I'm talking about something like Excel, where yes, of course, Excel is a digital tool, but it is very analog in the way that you operate it. And very often when we start with working with a new customer, there's often that one person in the organization who has this big spreadsheet called inventory master ordering 2022 final do not touch .xls, and they're the only person who knows how that spreadsheet works. And so it becomes a bit of a buzz factor problem for companies. But also, how good is that spreadsheet? It may have been very good when you were dealing with 100 SKUs, but when you get to thousands and hundreds of thousands of SKUs, that spreadsheet becomes very, very cumbersome. And so we think of that as a very analog way to run your business. And we want to give companies a far more digital way to do this. So ERP software obviously is the backbone of the modern supply chain, but they were not built to manage the complexities of optimizing inventory. So an ERP is an incredibly good system of record. And, when your ERP is set up properly, you can press a button and you will know that there's 72 of these widgets in warehouse A, row 7, shelf 5. And when you go there and you go count them, and you'll see there's 72 widgets. And that's brilliant, because your ERP system takes into account all of the receiving, all of the counting, all of the invoicing, all of the interbranch transfers, all of the selling out and the invoicing. So when all of that stuff works right, you can be very confident that the picture that your ERP shows you is what's really happening in your business. The problem with that is ERPs are great at all of the transactions, and they are great at giving you reports of what happened. What did we do last month? How was sales in the last, the first quarter, the first half of the year, and so on. But ERPs are not great to tell you what should happen. So we know that there are 72 of those widgets in that bin in the warehouse, but how many should there be? Maybe there should be 500 because we are approaching the high season. Maybe there should only be 2 because we are in the low season and no one's buying this stuff, but there's 72. And your ERP is never going to tell you how much you should have. So what we do is we integrate with your ERP system, and we will, Netstock will be the demand planning solution that can transform your supply chain by adding these pretty critical features. So intelligent automation that frees your time, makes it easier to place those orders. Of course, we can't do that without the sophisticated analytics. And of course, we will give you prescriptive insights. So Netstock is a very, very opinionated piece of software. We have designed it with all the best practices already baked in. So you don't have to set it up, and take months and years to get the thing up and running. It's got all of the best practices baked in, and it will tell you, listen, you've got too much of this, you've got too little of this, you have to do this today, you have to do that today, and so on. So that's where the prescriptive insights, making your decision-making far easier. So without Netstock, you are always reacting to supply and demand volatilities. So like I said, your ERP always gives you a picture of what happened and not what will happen. Your working capital is tied up in inventory. So if you think about how you may have over-ordered, all of those inventory is sitting in your warehouse gathering dust, but that actually represents a bunch of working capital gathering dust. And in today's economic climate, where it's very, very expensive to get working capital, a much less expensive way is to actually free up that working capital that's in your inventory. And is that even possible? You are having fewer sales because of stockouts, and you're doing backwards reporting. With Netstock, obviously we do supply and demand planning, so we plan for the future, and we have the ability to model different inventory policies. So your inventory policy is something like, I want to get a 99% service level to my customers. And the question then is, well, okay, you can do that to all of your customers. That will mean that you have to have X million dollars of inventory in the warehouse. Can you actually afford that? No, I can't. I can only afford half of that. Okay, so why don't we change the inventory policy where you might have a 99% service level to some customers and a lower service level to other customers? Or let's turn it upside down and look at, from our point of view, the A items that produce a lot of the value to us, let's get them a higher service level, and the C items that produces less value to us, let's give them a lower service level, for example. And then once you have that inventory policy set, you will implement that inventory policy. And the easiest way to implement that is every time you order from your suppliers. Because if you can order the right amount of inventory, not over ordering, not under ordering, and at the right time, so that the stock arrives in your warehouse in time, for example, for the high season, or in time for the low season, and so on, then you can get to that, you can achieve that inventory policy. Because if you order wrong, it doesn't matter what policies you set, you will always have the wrong inventory in the wrong place at the wrong time. And then what we do is we track your performance against the targets. So are we achieving what we want? Again, it's all good and well to set an inventory policy, but if you don't track the performance, you don't ever know if you're getting there. And as the old adage goes, the only time you can actually improve something is if you measure it. And so Netstock measures the performance against those targets to make sure that we are actually hitting them. And then what we can do is we can look intelligently into the future, and we can project what the inventory state is going to be in the future. What are we going to order into the future? What is is my excess going to come down? And is my service level coming up? What is my stock turns doing in the future, and so on? A very powerful feature that we have in Netstock is the ability to project future purchase orders. So what our customers do is they go and sit with their supplier and they say, right, here's the plan of everything we're going to order from you for the next 12 months, because we already have our forecasts. We understand how we, what we need to attain our inventory policies. And this is what we're going to order from you. And not only to the level of, X amount of dollars per month into the future, but we can even give it break it down to every item and every date of the order that the projected purchase orders we're going to place, and when we want those orders to arrive. That gives you an enormous amount of power in terms of negotiating with your supplier, because when you can give your supplier, for all intents and purposes, a forecast of what they need to supply you into the future, you have a far better bargaining position in terms of terms, payment terms and so on, lead times, preferred supplier, and so on and so on. And our customers make use of this feature to, again, optimize their relationship with their suppliers. So it is our mission to level the playing field and to compete and grow, to allow our customers to compete and grow. So again, predictability. So instead of just sitting there and reacting and firefighting every day about, oh, we're out of stock here, we overstock there, you spend too much money here, and so on and so on. The aim of Netstock is to calm things down and get to a point where things are predictable, and we are ordering and we are proactive instead of reactive. Powerful and simple. So the software, although it is immensely powerful, like I said, the founders used to do this for big enterprise customers. So even though it's very powerful, the user interface has been simplified to the point of much easier adoption and easier to onboard and get value from the system. And then, of course, like I said, we give you those prescriptive insights in real time, which allows you to capture loyalty and profit potential. Because if you can have the right inventory at the right time in the right place, your customers become a lot more loyal. And of course, you can be much more profitable than when you keep on running out of stock and you have to do, emergency orders and so on. Capital savings, goes without saying. If you can reduce the amount of inventory you have in your warehouse while upping your fill levels to your customers, you will save on capital, and you can reinvest that to grow the business. And of course, that will future-proof your business. So, a little bit of what Netstock looks like. So this is the dashboard. It is fully automated. So when every day it will go connect to your acuMatica system, extract all the data it needs, run all of the analytics and forecasting and so on. And then when you log in the morning, you get this kind of dashboard that tells you, everything from your stock holding, where you've got excess inventory, where you have surplus orders, where you've placed orders on your suppliers that are too much, and what my fill rate is, where am I stocking out right now, where am I potentially going to stock out. And the amazing thing about Netstock is that everything works on the 80-20 principle. So if you look at, for example, my stocked out items, I've got, in this example, almost 1,000 items that are out of stock, and I'm losing $660,000 of sales. But if I just fix the top 5 items of those 1,000, I'm going to make $140,000 difference in this, to this $660,000 problem. So when we say we talk about prescriptive insights, this is the kind of stuff that we are talking about. This is the ordering page, so recommended orders. Literally by the click of a button, it will come up with all the orders that you need to place for a specific vendor, with all of the information you need to make sure that recommendation that the software gives you is correct. Once you're done, you just click on the download button, and this order goes back into acuMatica, through the API, and it becomes a purchase order in your system. So, like I said in the beginning, your ERP is very good at running those transactions. Netstock is not designed to take over any of those transactions. This is a recommendation, and the recommendation will then go back into acuMatica to become the actual transaction, the orders. Classification is, like I said, hugely important. You need to understand where your items are that give you the most bang for your buck. And the green items in this specific matrix is really designed to show you these are the items that you need to pay attention to. If you have little time to invest or little dollars to invest, go and spend your time and your dollars on the green items. It will make a positive impact on your business. And then we constantly monitor the supply risk as well as the forecast risk to make sure that we can buffer ourselves against those risks in the business. So just a quick success story. One of our customers, maybe some of you remember the big ship getting stuck in the Suez Canal. So this customer said, Netstock may not be able to clear the Suez Canal or reopen closed ports, but thanks to Netstock, they could anticipate the logistical impact of the incomprehensible year and activate a plan B. Without Netstock, I don't think they would have gotten through this time with all of the disruptions. So that's the presentation. I don't know if there are any questions that I can answer. I'm looking in the Q&A section. I'm not seeing anything. Maybe in the chat. Oh, there's something in the chat. Let me just see. Supply chain disruption, digital, two of the great one on that. Yep. To what extent is automation AI utilized in a Netstock solution and can it help mitigate volatility and shortage of staffing? Thank you, Paul. So Netstock is designed to continually learn from your, like I said, we're measuring every single time there's a order that hits your warehouse or a forecast that we make for sales into the future. And because those things change every time and they're different for every item in every location, the system will learn what is the risk profile for every item and adjust your safety stocks automatically based on that. And those adjustments happen on a daily basis. So your safety stocks are always in flux and they're different for every item and they're different depending on your target service levels and so on. And so with those safety stock changes, your levels change, and when you order, how much you order and so on changes. So if you think about going into the high season, your safety stocks will go up, low season safety stock will go down, minimax levels change and so on. So we found that because it becomes a lot easier in terms of placing orders on all of your suppliers, some of our customers have been able to reduce the staff count just in terms of being able to do these things easier and more effectively. So I hope that answers your question, Paul. Right, I don't see any other questions, and I think this is more or less us. So guys, thank you very much for listening in. My name is Barry Kukkuk. I'm one of the co-founders of Netstock. You can hit me up on LinkedIn. Go to our website, netstock.com. We are one of the gold sponsors of this event. So you can click on our logo in the lobby area, and we would love to hear from you. Thank you very much.